last week Sheldon spoke concerning a passage from Thomas, right?
Yes, sir.
Regarding what?
Passage from Thomas.
I'm sorry, I'm just.
The last verse 114 of Thomas.
Oh.
When Peter was asking Jesus about Mary, about the kingdom of heaven and why was she there, etc.
Because what was he dealing with that? The whole idea of a woman not, the impression that he gave was that a woman was not important and she should be there. Yeah. And it was, Jesus made a statement of response that was that the passage we talked about, she's a man too, or he would make her.
I'll make her a man.
I'll make her a man. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now I'm gonna tell you what's really, really wild. When I start recalling passages from Thomas, like I do from the canonized scriptures.
Send me that link.
You did.
I have to use that.
Let me begin by asking if there are any questions based upon what Sheldon taught last week. If there are, please let me know, and we will indeed go from there. And if there aren't, then
I'll read it again to see if anybody has any questions.
Okay.
Y'all read it?
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Find it. Simon Peter said to them, "Let Mary leave us, because women are not worthy of life." Jesus said, "Look, I shall leave her so that I can make her male, in order that she also may become a living spirit resembling you males. But every woman who makes herself male will enter the kingdom of heaven."
But wouldn't that even say every man who makes himself female?
Should that be?
That's my question.
Well,
I mean, if the principle is the same.
that is a question, but it also, this sounds a little weird, but every man that makes himself male. It talks like it's talking not just because you're born with certain genitals that you are in the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
It's saying something spiritual. So even that you are born a physical male doesn't mean you're the male that he's talking about here. That's a life-giving spirit.
So is it saying that the important thing is being a giver? And because that's part of what the masculine spirit.
I even go back to kind of what we said last week a little bit anyway. If you look at it from a life giver, the first Adam was a male. He was male and female. He recognized, eventually anyway, he recognized the balance that he was. So he recognized he was a life-giving spirit. So I think that's in the kind of the realm of what's being discussed here, and not a chauvinistic comment that you can almost take it as.
And we also discussed that sometimes when males consider themselves as being males, they're not even being male in the aspect of being a receiver versus being that one that is imparting and giving, etc. Because when you look at it from an intercourse standpoint, what most males are actually doing is taking, not necessarily giving. So we talked about in that aspect as well. From a standpoint of coming into truth, etc., what he meant by when an initiate first, I guess, shows up or whatever, more so just gaining understanding, having those experiences of thyself, etc., things like that. And then once you learn through knowledge and experience is what Mary would have been doing when she started started to teach. And we do already know that after Jesus transitioned, that she went and she was that prominent figure to actually go and to continue his work. So in that aspect, she was that male then, that person that giving that life force, etc.
So, did I miss something based on what Barbara said about males becoming female?
It's probably that they have to become female first before they even become that male.
Could it very well be that Peter didn't even recognize that?
Yeah.
But the way Jesus was speaking was in a mystic, from a mystic perspective.
And it was also said about the history of that particular area, and still as in a lot of places in the Near East today, as far as the status that women have. So it would be the same, the equivalent of blacks being 3/4 of a person, the same thing, so that they were not granted the right to know anything when it comes to the mysteries. Better yet, to sit at the feet of a master like Jesus. And this is what Peter did. But at the same time, we know that Jesus had no problem initiating women. Same thing with the woman at the well. That would have been looked down upon as well. And she wasn't even she wasn't even Jewish. She was a Samaritan.
She was considered Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that had a lot to do with it as well. So I even tied that in with the today is the equivalent, I guess, of how homosexuals are looked at today. You looked at as being less of a person, but yet even them, they are allowed access to the mysteries and to be held in high regard. So.
I think certain things, if you look through the scriptures, certain things have to be said to open the door, to bring it in to the earth. And what Peter says, I don't think he realizes what he says here. He opens the door
For that correction.
Yes, for that correction.
For it to be dealt
in
with.
the earth. But I agree with you on what Barbara said too. That he's not balanced himself, and he doesn't recognize that.
I think Peter speaks out of well, not necessarily anger, but from a male chauvinist perspective.
Yes.
Like you're not good
He
enough.
was always the high head.
Yeah, high strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he speaks from that perspective that what's she doing here? I'll give you a classic example of that. At Great New Faith tomorrow, Monica, a lady whom you probably never met, is going to speak. She's involved with she wanted to change careers. Let me back up. And she decided that she wants to be a massage therapist. And that was quite a career change for her because of what she does currently. And at the time that she made that decision, she spoke to me about it, and I told her, keep in mind that money is not what makes you happy. What makes you happy is doing what you like. So at the time she started doing that, we were teaching about energy and energy transfers and trying to understand the energy. And that's when she was first introduced to Reiki. And she talked about how shocked she was to walk in and them talk about energy as we were, and in the same manner that we were speaking of it. Now, and I say that to lay the foundation for what I'm about to say concerning this idea. So she had some experiences, and because of the experiences she had and her beginning to understand it in depth, my statement to her was, Monica, you need to share that with everyone. So she's slated to do that tomorrow. She called me last night excited about some other things that transpired because I kind of sort of taught her how to transfer energy rather than disperse it. In Reiki, they teach you to push it out of your body into the ground, to the earth. And I taught her how to transform it rather than disperse it, because energy cannot be destroyed. Just transform it. So she got me excited about that, but this is the thing that she asked me. She says, so she said, well, tomorrow I'm really excited. I tried to write things down, but nothing comes. And I want to, let me tell you what I'm going to talk about. I said, whoa. Are you clearing what you're going to talk about with me? She said, yes, I wanted to make sure that, no. First of all, understand, if you're going to stand tomorrow, simply because I feel very strongly that the Creator intends that to happen. Otherwise, you wouldn't be standing. Now, why did she feel like she needed to clear that with me? Was it because of the tradition that she comes out of, partially, or was it also because of the secondary status that women are given, or that in the congregations? Because when you look at female preachers, if I do a service on Sunday morning, I may get $500-600. I may get $300, but she get $50, maybe $75 from the same place. You see where I'm coming from? So was it that that she felt she needed to do that because she's a female, or was it the combination of tradition and her being female? So by virtue of straightening that out, are we not elevating? We're not so much elevating as much as clearing the way for females to be regarded in the light that they should be regarded in, as opposed to feeling like they need to clear something with me. Because when I think back, males don't do that. If you invite a male to speak, he said, okay, and that's it. But females usually want to talk to you about what they want to talk about. So is that a carryover from what Peter is talking about, in this particular passage of Thomas? Something maybe that Sheldon had to deal with last week in order for us to clear the air. You see what I'm talking about? So it's for us, and the reality of it coming to, but by virtue of Monica asking that question, right, also gives us opportunity to bring things back in order. You understand what I'm trying to say? To give some sense of order to them. Now, also what happened is I spoke to her about balancing the energy in Kathy and bring it, because Kathy fell on the 4th of July that morning and broke her arm and twisted. She broke her right elbow and twisted her left ankle. So she was like, I'm just all broke up and stuff. And I said, well, look at the bright side of it. At least you twisted your left ankle, so now you got a crutch. If it had been your right ankle and your right elbow, you've been in real trouble. You wouldn't be able to walk at all. So after that, teasing about, what you been drinking, I don't know what you've been doing. But the bottom line was this. She has been studying in depth about energy transfers and flows and the meridian on the earth where the major spiritual centers are set up from antiquity, and looking at not only from the Mayan perspective, but from other ancient cultures around the world, and finding the commonality between all of them. That's what she's been looking at. And she had a vision or experience last Sunday, and that experience was that she was sleeping. She saw she and Linda were in the house, and they looked out, and there was this girl 4 feet, very small, and they knew that if she turned, her face was hideous, and she recognized this negative energy, and she had this rod in her hand. She said when the girl charged towards it, she was impaled on the rod, but she didn't die. She split male and female and turned and walked off, and she took that as understanding that energy, dark energy, cannot be destroyed. And then that was after we had talked about the transformation of it on Sunday. Okay, so now you'll understand why I had to bring that out. So that on the morning of the 4th of July, that was Wednesday, she packed in the car to go home. She says she walks back into the house and she fell. The chair goes one way and she goes the other way. So she's on the floor running, I guess, trying to assess her energies. She's trying to figure out why she failed. There's nothing in her way. So she finally concludes that she fell, but when she fell, she was taking her left foot a step, and when she brought the other one up, when it got parallel to her left foot, a force hit her foot. Like somebody tripped you. That's how she fell. And the fall was so hard until it chipped her elbow and twisted her ankle. And she came out of both shoes, they were nowhere near her. So we have concluded that in itself was an expression of the energy that she had experienced on that Sunday night. Can you see the parallel? So Monica's going to deal with the balancing of the energy forces, and I also feel like that as bad as it sounds, it was necessary for us to get to this place, and it had to be with someone whose mind immediately goes to analyze, okay, where did this come from? As opposed to, I thought we were stronger than the devil, and he can't do that kind of thing, right? Okay, where did this come from? And the other thing is that the first time that Monica stands that Sunday, on Sunday, this is the first time she would have spoken really to anybody because she's so quiet. And she only talks afterwards to a couple of people. And the fact that she grew up a child in the classes that we were teaching there at Mount Calvary Great Faith, and Kathy was one of her secret mentors because she was so quiet in doing the course of that. And with her doing that and having to go balance his energy, as opposed to what you would think the pastor's supposed to do that. You see where I'm coming from? But she's going to do it. Young, innocent, female. So Peter says, why is she here? Now you're about to see the reason she's here. The reason females are minimized is because as long as they are minimized in our minds, then we never come to a place of balance where we're able to become Elohim. We're always struggling. We're always trying. We're always trying to make every effort to correct. But we cannot bring about correction without balance. And balance and equality are different entities. We're talking about balance. So in this regard, the balance that's needed is a huge amount of feminine presence and a minimum amount of masculine presence. And that in itself is balance. Not equal, but balance. Okay, does that make sense? So before I go any further, are there any questions or comments about what I've said or what we've been talking about, I should say? Okay. Now, having said that, I want to make another statement as well. And the statement that I want to make is this. Something that I kind of got into last Sunday actually, and is this. We were created in the image of Elohim. But we are not Elohim. What helped me to see this, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment, okay? what helped me to see this is that I was looking at, can you use some water, please? I was looking at what it means when the scripture talks about when Jesus says things like, "What if you ask the Father in my name?" or "Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name," that in my name. That's what I was looking at, and I know I've looked at it hundreds of times before. I know that I've talked about it hundreds of times before. I know that I've read it countless times as well.
All of it's cold. Okay.
That's fine. I've done it. I've looked at it countless times as well. But every time something comes up in me like this, I look at it like I've never seen it before. And each time that I do that, I see something I've not seen before. So, what I did, what I found is that in can also mean within, or along with, or among, or so in my name can mean from my experience or from within. And when you look at the name, it means not name itself, but name talks about the character. Name talks about light. But when you look at the name of which he's speaking, he's talking about his name because he said mine, right? Mm-hmm. So the name, the light that was assigned to him is the light of the nameless one who restores. Yeshua. Y'all mean the nameless one, and Yeshua talks about restore or to deliver, right? Mm-hmm. So when he says in my name, he's talking about you doing it in the light or the enlightenment of the one, of the nameless one who restores. Can you see that? Now, okay, now I'm going to make application to the Elohim. If we were created in the image of Elohim, so was he. Right? And when he came from the womb of Mary, he came from the womb in the same state that we came from the womb, in the image of. But he had to make a decision to pursue what the image represents. Example. I can tell you to go to school, and when you complete school, you be a nurse. So you put on the nurse's uniform, right? So now you are in the image of a nurse. But if you pursue the art of dietitian, then you are not fulfilling the image of the nurse. Even though that's what you are. You're not pursuing the image or fulfilling the image of a nurse. You are pursuing and fulfilling the image of a dietitian. Anyone looking at you from the outside, meaning looking at you objectively, see a dietitian. They don't see a nurse. So if I look at you as an example of who I am supposed to be, I will not see the example of a nurse. I will see the example of a dietitian. So if you want to be an example to me of what I am created to be, then you would have to begin to pursue becoming the image of a nurse. So that means that all the things that a nurse is expected to do or to bring to light, you have to do in order for me to see the image of a nurse. Can you see that? Now, if we were created and we were in the image of Elohim, the thing that gave us the opportunity to pursue that image and become what we were created to be, or to pursue the image that we created, the dietitian, in example. The thing that gave us that was free will. Can you see that? So when we made that choice, we were following after the same thing, the thing rather, that we created. We were given, the image of Elohim gave us creative abilities. Did it not? It gave us the capabilities of bringing into fruition what we desire. And the things that we desired were also created by Elohim, the one who created us in the image. Because if they were not, then everything that came into being could not have come into being without him, right? So it had to come through him. Now, when the scripture says, and when we were standing in the museum there in Philadelphia looking at the Dead Sea Scrolls, I think it was Ron, Audrey, Janique, and me, was it not? Michelle, were you with her? Anyway, when we were standing looking at those Dead Sea Scrolls, and we saw that it said that, and the light divided. You remember that? This is what helped me see it. The light divided, and the day, and the light was called day, and the darkness was called night. So if the light divided, and the darkness was called night, then all darkness is light. It would have to be, wouldn't it? So
if it started as light.
That's right. It would have to be light. So the light that was divided and was called day, day talks about completion of something. And night talks about be it violence or confusion or chaotic or anything that is not in rhythm with the Creator. Light is always in rhythm with the Creator. And the rhythm of the light, rhythm of being in rhythm with the Creator does not mean that all of us are in the same rhythm. Because there are different lengths of light rays.
So then the question I have is, if all light, and I guess it'll answer something, it was originally from light, whether it's darkness that was named, whether it was light that was called darkness, or light that was called day. Anyway. The question I have is why the need then to have that rhythm, and why the need to have that violence or chaos? Is that leading to the idea of free will?
It is. It is exactly the idea of free will. See, there is light and darkness are not separate entities. They are a continuum. Can you see that? Because you don't go from darkness into light immediately. It's a journey. So it is a continuum. Now, when you look at light, darkness from the perspective that I just described it, with light being something that's complete, enlightenment in rhythm with, and darkness being confusion, chaotic, violent, out of rhythm, out of sync. When you look at that, then when we were created in the image of Elohim, right? Then we were given the opportunity to be enlightened, the nurse, in sync with, in balance, right? Or we could choose to be the dietitian. So what we did, we looked into that confusion and brought out of it what we call order, our religious beliefs. And what they did, we talked about how they put us in greater darkness, greater bondage. What they actually did was create more confusion in us. Because there were so many things that were not explained and that we did not understand, but we were always told, either you don't question God or you will not know, it wasn't meant for you to know everything, stuff like that, which increased the confusion, which we interpret as increased darkness. So when you look at the length energy of light, what you call it, light, the length of, come on, talk to me.
Waves.
Light waves, yeah. The lengths are different, and the distance between them are different. So that in itself tells us that the frequencies, the frequencies are different. So that, but it's still light, isn't it?
Yes.
So that tells us that even though the frequencies are different, it does not mean it's not light. So we may be vibrating differently with the Creator. You may vibrate differently, Bob, than I do. And that is the reason you can bring something to the understanding that I don't see. Because we'll vibrate in rhythm in different ways. Does that make sense? Now, if we all were vibrating, or if we were all in the same rhythm, if all the light rays were the same length, then all of us would see exactly the same thing at the same time. Which means that there is not much room for growth. Because the way we grow is by all of the sparks of light, regardless of the vibration, regardless of the frequency that it vibrates in, regardless of the length of the wave, all of it is light, and we must accept it as that. And that's what brings us to a sense of oneness. Can you see that?
So then that's why it's important for us to, when we see things that look like it might be chaos or darkness, to draw the light out of that.
That's it. Bring order to it.
So instead of saying, okay, woe is me, like Kathy chose not to say woe is me, why me, all that stuff.
Right.
She sought to see the reason why, which draws light out of it.
Right.
So, okay, now it goes back to the original, light separated, and, okay.
Yeah. Light separate, light divided.
Light
What is
divided,
it?
okay.
No, I guess I'm still back on the light dividing thing. It almost, you know, just the word darkness is negative. It sounds negative rather, but it almost, it's no different than when I showed Diane this book. She said there were a couple books laying here, and I said, this one I have for the baby, this one is mine, and you said, yeah, she's not ready for that. In other words, you separate. You made the decision that this is something that she can understand. This is something she's not ready for. And that, to me, is what happened in the beginning. It sounds more like what happens with the light. These are things that in time you will be ready for, but in time right now you are not. But if you follow the light that is available to you, it will lead you to the things that you don't understand, that you're in darkness about. You can't get there without it.
See,
Does that make sense?
yes, it does. There was not a severance taking place here. When you sever something orderly, it's totally separated.
But that's my other question. It said it's the light separated. What separated it?
It didn't separate like that. It was a distinction made.
Okay.
That's where the continuum comes in. It was a distinction made. There is a distinction between confusion and order.
I see it. I see it.
Even though it doesn't appear on the surface sometimes. For
Yeah.
example, we thought that the order of baptism was for the purpose of being a member of the church, right? So you can go to heaven. I'm serious.
Yeah.
But when we began to see that the order of baptism is a physical representation of a spiritual distinction between light and darkness. A decision that you make to begin this journey, regardless of how long it takes and regardless of what it carries you through. You see, those are the first 7, the dips I'm talking about. The last 3 is a reminder that regardless of how separate you may feel, you're never separated from the Creator, because He is the source of all life. Matter of fact, He is your life. And regardless of how you, regardless of what you have to go through, you know that where 2 or 3 are gathered in the enlightenment that is presented to you, the light is in the midst.
Well, the very sentence says it. It didn't say it's the lights separated. It said the light separated.
Yeah.
So it's all one.
Right.
Light.
So that's it.
It's no difference than me saying, you know what, I'm not going there today.
Right.
Oh, that's a part of me. I decide what direction I want my attitude to flow in.
And also, the word for night and the darkness, the confusion called night, talks about twisting truth away or twisting the light away. So the confusion is there to twist the light away, which means that there is a struggle. And it is through struggle that order comes. Without friction, when you talk about a thunderstorm, right? What makes it that? Whether it be ice, crystal, snow, or whatever, the crystals in the cloud rubbing against each other creates the friction. And when the friction is created, the positive charge or joins the negative charges in the Earth's atmosphere, and that's what creates the lightning, and the force of the lightning is what creates the thunder boom, the noise. You see? The explosion between the... So friction itself brings about light. So the twisting the light away, the twisting of truth away is designed for us to fight to hold on to what we know the truth is. You can only be Elohim through struggle. I say that you are Elohim, but you choose not to be Elohim. You choose to be human. See that?
Yes.
So when we look at everything through the eyes of creation, we see that out of beginning came an infinite opportunity to be Elohim. Elohim is plural. See, can you see that?
Yeah.
And out of Elohim came choice, heaven, earth. Can you see that? Light, consciousness, and a consciousness that we control, that we dominate, that we have the right to prevail over. Can you see that? Now, the first thing that happened, the first attribute that was expressed towards us from the one who created us, had to be expressed not only from Elohim, but also from Yahweh, Father. And when Father and Elohim came together, it became Yeshua, the nameless one who restores. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Now let's back up to the attribute. Guess what the first attribute was that was reflected, shown to us? The attribute of forgiveness. Mercy and forgiveness are intertwined. When we chose to become or chose to follow the pathway of confusion instead of following the pathway of light, forgiveness had to take place, otherwise we would have been destroyed. Can you see that? That is the reason it is so imperative for us to be forgiven. Can you see that? Regardless of what happens, we must be forgiven. Because everything that we perceive as being perpetrated against us or directed toward us are those things that comes out of that ball or that cloud or that space of chaotic light or unrecognized light. Can you see that? So if we can see it from that perspective, then forgiveness is not about restoring Diane to where she was before. Forgiveness is about restoring the light to what it was supposed to be before it was confusion. So when the Creator brought the light and darkness into being, it was for us to bring that light to order. Now watch this. In order for us to be Elohim, we must also create. Can you see that? If you don't believe that you can create, you don't believe that you are Elohim, you also do not believe that you were created in that image. Yes, ma'am.
So then, by forgiving, for us, by forgiving, that restores sort of that balance within us. So then that when we create, we're more likely to create in the image of Elohim rather than creating it in the image of ourselves, because you're not holding that baggage, because the first thing we would have done is forgiven, created the space so that we could create light. Right?
Yes. Now guess what you just showed me without knowing it. That is why Paul talked about being baptized for the dead. We were just immersed in the mikvah of truth on behalf of what Peter said concerning Mary. By bringing order to that light, we invoked forgiveness on his behalf. In other words, restoring him to the place where he was supposed to be from the beginning, and that place being able to see the significance of Mary being there with Jesus. Can you see that?
Could you also be baptized for the dead in the sense that we're dead in these bodies? And
Yes.
you absorb the light on behalf of
That's
people?
exactly it, babe. That's exactly it. Because see, Peter's not dead in the sense that most people think about death. He's dead in the sense that you just described.
And what was she gonna finish saying? Because you didn't give her a chance to finish.
Oh, I'm sorry, but that was awesome.
I know, I understand,
Just,
but
I
so-
mean, the people who don't have enlightenment, who are in these bodies that have no, like they're just the living dead, so to speak.
Yes, that's exactly it. I mean, what do you do when Barb made the comment earlier, right? And here's what you just said. When you do that, what you are doing is making available light for those who are walking dead. And that is one of the reasons we have to make sure that we don't repel people, but we attract them. And we repel them with arrogance about what we know, always blaming them. You know, think about it this way. Ron can't come to me and tell me what everybody at his job doing wrong. I don't want to hear that. Because it's not everybody on his job who's doing it wrong. The things that he's telling me that's going wrong on his job is him. He's talking about himself. It's his problem, not the folk on his job. Am I right?
Yeah.
And some of the things he's told me, and I said to him, Ron, I'm sorry, but that's you. Deal with it. And once he deals with it, it dissipates just like that. But as long as he was making, reference to everything that someone else was doing, nothing changed. He would, not only were the things at the job the same, but he was in a rut as well, whether he was at that job or not. That make sense?
Yes.
So we have to truly, you can't just say that what I see is reflective of what's in me, you have to believe that. And when you believe it, you embrace it. And when you embrace it, you handle it. That's how it happens. So, when we look at the concept of the light and darkness continuum, we began to see that in every regard. Example, when Yahweh Elohim came, when the Lord God made Adam from the Adamah, from the dust of the Adamah. Can you see that? The Lord God made Adam from the dust of the ground. Adam is the masculine, and Adamah is the feminine. So, in order to be able to create within the parameters of earth consciousness and bring it to the place of enlightenment that it was designed to be, then we have to prevail over the earth. That's where it says dominate, right? Prevail over it. It's earth consciousness. Can you see that? Now, all of this was designed from the beginning. If you take a child and you never let that child make any attempt to walk, that child will never walk. Can you see that? How many times does a child fall before he learns to walk? Every time that child falls and attempts to get up, not only are the muscles being strengthened that he uses to walk, but his other bodily muscles are also being strengthened by virtue of him trying to pull himself up. Can you see that?
Yes.
The only reason that child learns to walk is because the child is patient and persistent. It's a lot of patience to learn to walk. And persistence must prevail. Can you see that? Now, when the earth was created with us prevailing over it, we must be persistent in our pursuit to bring the confusion out of this earth consciousness and make it enlightenment so that we can be Elohim. Can you see that? We must be persistent in bringing the light out of the earth consciousness, bringing order to that light that's in earth consciousness so that we can be Elohim. Because that in itself is created. Can you see that? Hello? Now,
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
we must be persistent
In pursuing
bringing order to the earth consciousness so that we can be Elohim. If we buy into earth consciousness, we will be human all the time. So being human is not just something that you call a body. Being human is a state of being. Can you see that? So if we want the state of being to transition into Elohim, then we must be persistent and patient. Let me show you what impatience look like. This is what impatience look like. We are discussing and trying to understand energy flows, femininity, masculinity, Yeshua, Mayim, Mary. We're trying to understand these principles, right? But it's not going fast enough for Evelyn, so she goes to start her own church. But you see what I'm talking about? So she goes to start her own church. What happened? She starts it, but nothing comes of it. Why? Because the reason that she could not stay it's because things were not happening fast enough for her, which in itself is selfish. But we just plod right along saying, you know what? I see what I see right here, and I cannot go any further until I see further. And it might not be the I, James Richard, who sees further. It might be the I, Ron, or the I, Barbara, or the I, whomever, who sees further. And the seeing further might take place the day after she leaves. Can you see that? One of the things that someone said concerning me in the upstate, they left, as have so many other people, and my response was, yes, they left. The ties were not severed. They just left. The band was stretched, but the ties weren't severed. And guess what they said concerning me? You can say what you will about James Richard. You can leave and you can be gone 10 years. When you come back to him, he is still at the same place moving forward. It might be slow pace, but he always sees something beyond where he was. Can you see that? It takes patience and persistence in order for you to move forward. It might not look like it's going any place, but anything that you can see move is not healthy. Let me show you what I mean by that. You don't see grass grow, but it does grow. If it grows too fast, look at the chicken. Look at the antibiotics that they give to animals to make them grow real fast. Look at what it's doing. It's not healthy. Everything is designed to grow at a pace. If I were to take what I understand and say, I don't want to deal with any of you who cannot follow the pace that I'm traveling at, then my growth stops immediately. Can you see that? My growth is dependent upon making sure that every one of you grow at the pace that you grow. Can you see that? So, the point that I'm trying to make is this. It might take a while, but when you get there and look back, it did not take as long as you thought it did. Because if you were to look at where we were when we were in the other building as opposed to where we are now, if we had said, you know what, we just saying the same thing over and over again and not getting any place, we would never come to the understanding that we have now. Never. Because I had been looking at the tree of life for 10 plus years. And as he walked in one Sunday and said, Pastor, I dreamed something. I sat on the side of my bed and I saw this, and I want to teach it. He taught the tree of life. And I didn't have a clue on how to deal with it. But if I had said, you can't do it until I get it. You see? It takes all of us being patient and persistent in order to bring light out of darkness. Can you see that? The moment that you begin to do it on your own, you become darker. Your confusion increases because Jesus says, if your eye is dark, then your whole body is dark. If your eye is confused, if what you see is confusion and you think it's light, then all of your being is actually confused. Can you see that? So, when I saw this concerning Elohim, I was a bit apprehensive about making the statement that we are not Elohim. We have the opportunity to become Elohim. The apprehension was in that we had talked so much about Elohim, right? We were created in the image. It did not say created as. We were created in the image, which gives us opportunity to be. Can you see that? Now, athletes, if you're going to be an athlete, you have to be patient and persistent. You hear them talk about in football, the running back is patient enough to wait for the blocks to develop. If he tries to hit the hole too soon, he loses yardage. But if he's patient and wait for the blocks to develop, any sport that you deal with requires persistence and patience. You can get a volley going in tennis, but you got to look for the opportunity so that you can score. If you try to do it too soon, you either hit it long, hit it out, or you get it right back to you instantly, and you miss the shot. You lose the serve. You see what I'm talking about? I don't care what sport you talk about. And the reason I'm using the analogy of sport is because there are so many other things in life that we overlook as being paid. You know, like athletes, we just think all athletes are, dumb jocks. That's not true. Yesterday when Ralph and I were playing golf, and every shot I made up in my mind, since when it's really, really hot, it's hard to focus. So the funny thing is that if it's comfortable out there, I won't focus. But when it's really, really hot, I focus, because I know when it's really, really hot, you got to be conscious of focusing. And I play much, much, much better because of focusing. Persistence and patience. I don't care what it is. It requires that. Now, let's bring it to the academics.
I just wanted to point out that without resistance, you don't focus as well.
That's a good point. Thank you.
It's like you need resistance to create light.
Yeah. Okay. And that's maybe now I'll just create light even when it's not hot, right? Academically, you have to be patient. People leave school because things are not happening fast enough. I know my temptation was to leave because I'm thinking about I'm looking at the big picture. Like that's just too much to be dealing with. But when I settled myself down and said, you know what? Just do it from Labor Day to Thanksgiving, and from Thanksgiving to Christmas, and Christmas to spring break, and spring break to the end. You know what I'm saying? That's how I did it. And it was easier that way. But the thing that happened is I ended up doing it from the end of the second semester to the 4th of July, which meant I went to school year round for 10 years. And there were people who asked me, well, what kind of degree you trying to get? And I hadn't even thought about that because I wasn't. I was just going to school because I was going to these little chunks. And I was fascinated with what I was learning. So when you are patient and persistent, you get to the place where you don't need those little things anymore to make you conscious of being patient and persistent, because that's who you become. You just do it. Does that make sense? Nothing comes without patience and persistence. Now, harken back to the idea of our being created and being created to be creators. We will never be Elohim until we develop patience and persistence about bringing order out of darkness. Can you see that? We will remain being human. See, the other thing about it is this. Things may happen to you in terms of your change, in terms of what you become aware of, but it really doesn't change your life until you become conscious of what's changed. When you become conscious of it, that is when you make the effort to move in one direction or the other. Can you see that? So you have to be aware of the decision to change. If that were not the case, then everything could happen without you being persistent. But Paul said, the very thing that I sought to apprehend, apprehended me. In other words, my persistence about the apprehension of truth apprehended me. When I looked at myself, when I realized anything, I had become the personification of the truth that I was looking for. The very God that you look for is who you are.
Give me the difference between awareness and consciousness again.
Ain't none that I know. There isn't one that I know.
You said until you, as long as you're aware. Will you explain that?
Okay, become aware of your awareness. Becoming aware of your awareness. Becoming conscious of your awareness. Knowing what you're aware of. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got to know what you're aware of.
You said it,
Yeah.
I said, okay, there's a difference the way you were
Yeah.
saying it.
You got to know what you're aware of. Well, in the word consciousness has different understandings anyway. But you must become the anyway. This is interpretation of that. You must become the personification of Elohim. That's what Jesus did. He was the personification of Elohim. And the personification of Elohim is what? In a human. What is it? It is the nameless one who restores. So if you are, and Jesus said you're supposed to be just like him and do things he did, right? So if that is the case, then you are supposed to be the nameless one who restores. Meaning, you cannot restore without caring about what you restore or loving what you're restoring. You can't restore people without loving people. Restoration for people does not come when you manipulate them. They're not restored, they're just manipulated. Restoration doesn't come for people when you are looking at them for a paycheck. That's just manipulation. If you look at what I'm saying and make a comparison between how religion has set itself up, you will see that the messages about the same thing over and over again. The people don't change. Their lives are the same. There's no peace, no calmness, and they're afraid of what tomorrow's going to bring. Not understanding that when you are aware of your nature, you know that you are tomorrow, today, and yesterday. That's who you are. You are all of it. There are no divisions there. And what is termed in time as being tomorrow, you create that right now. And that is the reason when you get to tomorrow, there is no tomorrow. Because you never get to tomorrow. It is always today. Always. The preparation for that is now. So you can't live 25 minutes from now or 25 minutes previous to now. Deal with what's happening now. That is the reason we talk about focus. That is the reason we talk about attention. That's because if you don't give your attention, you are not living in the now. And when you're in the now, I may say something that would trigger something in you, that would carry us further than where we are. So as a result of that, we are bringing life to these, or enlightenment to those dead bodies, or those who are dead in these bodies, or were dead bodies actually, because Soma is talking about a corpse. You know, we're bringing light to the corpse. Now, this is what happened to Enoch. Enoch became aware of who he was created to be, and he brought life to the corpse. And he brought so much life to the corpse until he was no more. Can you see that? See, this is the thing. When you talk about your body being a corpse, you are talking about you being life. If you can see this from this example, it may help you tremendously. If you can see your body as being like a suit of armor, that armor just stands there, doesn't it? That armor stands there in the corner and people look at it. But when the knight gets ready to go into battle, he steps into that armor, doesn't he? And the armor comes alive. Because he's moving it. That's what your body is. Your body moves like that armor. Because it comes alive simply because you are in it. Without you in it, it's dead. So when Jesus said, "This is my body, my corpse, which is broken for you," he's talking about the dead body being not only broken in terms of physically broken, but he's talking about and I'm going to say this and try to explain it, what I'm trying to feel, but I can't find the right word right now. He's talking about the distinction. He's breaking the belief that your body and you are the same. When he breaks that, you begin to recognize the distinction between the two. Can you see that? So communion that he did with the bread and stuff is about helping us to recognize the distinction between the body and who we are. That's it. And again, here we go. Out of the darkness concerning communion, here we come with some more light. Out of that disorder, we bring in more order. Can you see that? Yeah. And as the blood flows through the body, the wine, so does life flow through the body. Because when you look at the word Adam, the dam of Adam, El, and dam, sap, or wine, or blood. You see that? Flows. So when he talks about when the scriptures talk about the life being in the blood, it's talking about the essence of the being. Just like the blood flows through the vessels in this body, so does the essence of Elohim flow through you. Which gives us opportunity to be Elohim as opposed to being human. Questions? Does all this make sense? So now we have to take a new approach, or a different approach, maybe I should say, to how we deal with the concept of Elohim. We cannot get to the place where we do, a lot of words with no meaning, or intellectual masturbation with no producing absolutely nothing but a good feeling for the one who's doing it. Just saying a lot of stuff. Memorizing scriptures but don't understand what they mean. Knowing passages but having no sense of the power of those passages. It's like walking around. I remember when we went to Orangeburg to a science fair when I was in high school. And there were like 5 or 6 is always run together, but it was like 4 run together this particular time. And we had just got paid our bus check. So, we were loaded. So we were walking around on campus, and we had gone to the science fair, and we had, walked through the exhibits and stuff, and then they being little mannish boys, were walking around campus trying to talk to a college girl.
And before bring meter.
No, I was following, trying to learn some things. And before we realized anything, the cafeteria had closed. And then we walked downtown, because you know, for state, downtown's nowhere. We walked downtown to find something to eat, and everything was closed. So we had money, but no access to food. If you have power, abilities, and no access to understanding them, it's just like not having them. It's just like not having it. Nowhere were we able to find food. So we went back on campus. And we started talking to people again. And there's one thing then, I don't know about now, females always had food in their dorm. And that's where we got our food. We had the money to buy the food, but we had no access to the food. We had the power, but no access to understanding how to use it. But here comes someone who gives us what we have the power to get without us having to use any power to get it. Can you see that? Yes. The thing that we were seeking to apprehended us. Can you see that? Yes. All because of those little magic boys. And I learned from that. Okay. Any questions? Why do it to me like people look at me like you think I'm stupid? Okay. Are there any questions?
No question. I'm just mulling through Matthew 28, go ye therefore, and this goes back to the point that Janice made about walking about corpses and it just what we do every moment that we are aware of our being not just human is baptizing mankind into truth. And it's like it's not a every Saturday thing, go take the flyers and canvas the neighborhood kind of stuff. It just kicks it up to a whole nother notch.
Well,
it's the state of being rather than
that's it.
doing.
Cleansing. Constantly cleansing. That's what we're doing, right? The baptism part.
And the point I'm making also is that not only are we bringing light to those whose corpses have transitioned, but to the walking dead.
Right.
Whose corpses have.
And that's, listen what she said. Even that, the walking dead. Walking dead. Walking with no direction in mind. Just walking. When you talk about a journey, you talk about travel, don't you? You don't hear people talk about walking life. Just the walking dead. Suppose the reason you don't hear that is because when you're no longer dead, you don't walk.
You just be. I mean, it's
That's
different.
it.
It's the difference between being and doing. Walking is a doing thing.
Look at what happened with Jesus when he was no longer dead, when he was resurrected. Wherever he thought he wanted to be, that's where he was. See, that's the reason, another reason among many, why we cannot buy into the idea that he was born Elohim, more so than we are. If we buy into that, then we have to buy into the heaven and hell thing, exactly the way it's presented. He had to go through transition, just like we have to go through transition. Listen to what it says. Began and created what? Heaven, Elohim, right? Listen to what John writes. Beginning was the Word, is the Word, and ever shall be the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Huh? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Everything goes to beginning. Everything goes to beginning. You must be born again. You must go to beginning. That's not about joining the church and having Jesus in your life. It's about becoming the essence of who you were created to be and being who Jesus is, as opposed to having him in your life. Can you see that? Because if I got you in my life, I can put you out of my life. But if I recognize that we are one, then there is no division between us, no separation.
Right. We do talk about him like he's a good luck charm.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's why people, the cross is a good luck charm. It's a talisman. That's the, and that's what we don't realize is that when people have visions, they have visions based upon their culture. So when they see, when they say that they saw Jesus or when they saw Buddha, whomever, it's based upon your culture. Jesus said that. He says, how can I talk to you about enlightened things when you don't understand earthly consciousness? Didn't he say that?
Yes.
So what did he do? He talked to them based on earthly consciousness related directly to their culture. And one of the reasons the scriptures are so misunderstood is because we don't understand the culture from which they came. If we were to understand the culture from which they came, then this whole idea, the way that Canaan would be different. The woman at the well would be different. The whole thing would be different. The Last Supper would be different. I mean, think about it this way. The Last Supper, and I'm done when I say this, I think anyway. The Last Supper totally dismisses the culture out of which it came. Totally. The communion totally dismisses the culture. It has no, as a matter of fact, the way we do communion totally dismisses the scripture origin of it. Totally. The way we do communion has absolutely nothing to do with Passover. Communion has everything to do with church membership, doesn't it? That's in the Baptist church especially. Methodist church, everybody can do communion. But it has everything to do with bringing you to a point of salvation in Jesus, doesn't it? Communion, when Jesus did the Last Supper, it was because it was representing the Passover. And when you look at the meaning of the Passover, it has nothing to do with church membership. It has everything to do with coming out of darkness, coming out of bondage, coming out of Egypt, coming out of cramped space, coming out of entanglements, being delivered from the disorder, coming in rhythm with. That's what it's talking about. But we don't do it from that perspective. And he said what? But he said, this is my body. This is my corpse. That's what he said. So how does that relate to the Passover? If you do what I did, then you will be, not only will you be free from the entanglements, not only will you be free from the chaotic conditions that you live in, but you will also be in rhythm with the Creator as I am, and then you can bring other people into rhythm. Suppose for a moment that the whole idea of greater things is that not only will you be in rhythm as I am in rhythm, but you will bring other people into rhythm because you are in rhythm. Suppose that's the greater thing. And the only thing that you need to do to bring them into to rhythm is for them to be willing to be in rhythm, and you show up. That's it. Look at the men on the road to Emmaus. They couldn't even see him until they got in rhythm. And when they got in rhythm, they recognized who he was. And and the reason he was gone is because he was no longer needed. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
He was no longer needed. They were in rhythm. So suppose it's the greater thing. It has nothing to do with being able to levitate yourself or anything else, or to walk on some water, or any of those other feats, those physical feats that were accomplished. None of those things, but simply being in rhythm to the extent, or being enlightened to the extent that you are indeed light to anyone who desires it, and you can walk past someone, and simply because they desire light, they get infused by the light that you are, and then you become so sensitive to that until when it happened, you turn and say, who touched me? You know when it leaves you. It says virtue left him. Enlightenment left him. He felt it. She drew it. She drew that because that's where her desire was. Can you see that? Why was it a woman with an issue of blood? Why was that significant? Why was it? Because a woman who was bleeding was never to be touched. She was not even supposed to be in the presence of the public. Why was it a woman with an issue of blood? Because it was the life that was draining from the feminine energy, and man had to stop that drainage. He had to stop the death. He started it, he has to stop it. And the way he stops it is by infusing it with enlightenment. And the enlightenment that he fuses it with is not masculinity, it's a respect and holding it in the regard that it was designed to be held in. That's the issue of blood that we're talking about. The essence of life draining from the feminine energy. And that feminine energy desiring to be who this energy was designed to be, desiring to nurture and to be impregnated so that mankind can become the Elohim that he is, be recognized as one that so desperately, until they've gone every place. They've gone to the Baptist church, the Methodist church. They've gone through all these denominational issues. They've gone through all these things that we call cults. They've gone through all these other things that we call ancient religions, and the chanting and the meditation and the talisman. They've done all of these things, and she cannot find relief any place. But when she finds someone who is willing to recognize who she truly is, she gets life. And mankind begins to change. Is that not powerful?
Yes.
That's who she is. This woman with the issue of blood. And when that is recognized, you don't have to go any place to bring life to anyone. Because when they recognize who you are, they say to you, listen, I'm a man in authority. I recognize authority. All you got to do is speak the word. And that the innocence of femininity will live again. Jairus' daughter, the innocence of femininity will live again. And when this man who had looked down upon women, when this masculine energy who had dominated everything, got to that place, of innocence, he recognized that life was there. And he began to live again. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Why is the innocence important, and what does that mean?
Innocence is important because, and I'll explain in a moment what it means. It's important because we must recognize that there's nothing dirty about a female. Regardless of her state, she is clean. The woman had the issue of blood for 12 years. The little girl was 12 years old. You see? So the blood was recognized. The woman let in blood, with her menstrual cycle, that was considered dirty. It had nothing to do with the child's age as much as it had to do with innocent versus what we perceived to be untouchable. And keep in mind, there were males involved in both of those situations. Master, how could you know who touched you when all of these people are pressing upon you? Because virtue left him. What is he saying? What do they say? He's saying, you're not sensitive yet. You don't know yet. Thank you, Barbara. You don't know what it means yet. You see? You will come to a place where you understand what it means.
The other interesting thing about that scripture is both of those women represent the old and the new regime.
Yes,
That's
right.
coming in. So when you look at the previous verses, it's really kind of an analogy of what he had just taught them, right? So when you look at the 12, he's not again talking about an age. He's talking about something that's come into fruition. It reaches ripeness.
2 + 1 is 3. Divine completion. What is 12, Bob?
Divine authority, perfect, a completion of growth.
So divine authority brings about divine completion. These parables, these events that we look at from a physical perspective, have a tremendous message if we allow the light to flow, and we can look at it from the esoteric perspective. You know, the desire is the key that unlocks the door, or put it another way, the desire is the thing that tears the curtain from top to bottom and opens the Ark of the Covenant and allow you to step on it, not only into the Holy of Holies, but to see what's there. Desire. Questions? Are there any questions being typed in? Go ahead.
I tell you where my mind is going, and I'm not sure how to put this together yet, but the scripture where John talks about make your path straight,
Mm-hmm.
I think I see that in a new light now. Perhaps darkness, if you could look at it in the form of a circle, is also meant to preserve. For example, how many times you go through something that you know you should handle, and you say, you know what, I'm back in that same place again. It might be financial, it might be emotionally. You've come in a circle. So the church being a circle may be preserved in the earth for such a time as this, until man understands, come to a place of understanding.
Oh, it definitely
to break
is.
the circle and move forward. I mean, think about all we talked about the Passover, when we talked about the Jewish rituals before. They see them as in a physical way, but it's preserving spiritual things in the earth that they do not see.
That's the earth consciousness. That's
Yeah.
preserving spiritual things for such a time when someone will appear who is willing to see what's really there.
Yeah.
You know, that is the reason I say to anyone, it does not matter what you teach. It does not matter whether you think you've arrived or not. When you walk away from the scriptures, you have walked away from your source of life. You have to use the scriptures in order to get people to understand who they are. And now, if you are in another culture, you use the holy enlightenment of that culture to help people see enlightenment. But the enlightenment in our culture is the scriptures. That's it. That is it. We have to do that. Why? Because it doesn't matter whether you have ever been to church or not. Everybody in our culture, if they have not read it or touched it, they've heard about the Bible. Everyone. They've heard about it. They know it exists. Can you think of anyone who has not heard of it? Anyone. Anyone. You find the worst people in the world that we see as being the worst, right? That we perceive as being that. People who've done all sorts of things. Oh, they get jailhouse religion. Why? It's based on either the Quran or the Bible, which are the same. So we have to use the books of enlightenment. I listened at this guy talk last night about he was a suicide bomber who got caught in Israel because he pushed the button and it didn't explode. And he was being asked questions by Dr. Waters about Barbara was asking him about what he believed would happen when he died. He's talking about going to paradise and being in the garden and heaven. Now this is what he said. He said, when you're in paradise, the rivers flow with milk and honey. Does that sound familiar? When you're in paradise, she said, well, what about the virgin? 72 of them, right? What about the 72 elders that we deal with? See what I'm talking about? Well, in the scriptures, in the Revelations, it talks about 72 elders. So the scholar says, in actuality, 72 talks about an infinite amount. It's like I've told you 100 times. You know, that's what it represents. So when it talks about 72 virgins, it's not talking literally. So and he says there's nothing in the Quran that teaches anything about 72 virgins at all. But the number 72 is the same as saying 100 times.
And there's 72 letters in the that long name of God.
Yeah, right, 72 letters. So the 72 is infinite. So that's what he's talking about. So if this guy is in Israel in prison, and I noticed something else too about them being in prison. Let me do this little footnote. Those guys are in prison. They wear civilian clothes, and they interact with the guards. Like when the guard brought her into the cell to talk to them, you could see him shaking hands and talking to the prisoners. And he had no help. They just talking. I found that fascinating.
So they don't dehumanize them.
They don't know.
They're in prison.
Right. Now, what was fascinating to me, and the reason I think I was supposed to see it, is that they were using the same term. They meaning the suicide bombers, the political prisoners, the terrorists, however you want to make reference to them. They were using the same things to believe about paradise as we use to believe about heaven. Same thing, same principles. So what does that say? It says that there is a thread of truth that unites everything spiritual. And that thread of truth has been interpreted and taught as being something physical. And that is where the confusion comes. And when we can see the spirituality in all of it, when we can see that the common thread that runs through all truth is who we are, it is at that point that we will begin to see that all of us come from one blood, from one essence. And the essence from which all of us come is the essence of the Adam being nurtured in the womb of the Adamah. And the womb of Adamah is this earth. And what we are doing right now, by virtue of our teaching, is being nurtured through a natal cord from the other side so that we can be birthed into a reality that we have never, ever known or experienced. And unless there are questions or comments, I'm done. Speak up, Lebo.
Another understanding of the woman with the issue of blood is if blood represents the essence of our very being. Until mankind understands and embraces the role of, not women, feminine energy and its meaning, it's like the very essence of our being is being drained away. We will never, she won't capture that blood back. It's like we're hemorrhaging
Yeah.
the very essence of our being until we understand and reunite those energies within ourselves, in a sense.
In reality, you're exactly right. That's what I think I said.
Okay.
No, that's what I meant. How about that? Yeah, but
I thought that's what you said.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
I like that, cause I'll take credit for it. You give it to me. But anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, that's the essence of it all. Really, it really is. That's the essence. I mean, if you think about it, let's go back to the Philadelphia trip again. Everywhere we went, no one had to say, somebody needs to stay back and make sure the ladies are okay. Somebody always did that. Everywhere we went. Every place we went to eat, even though we split up to go, nobody planned that males would go be with us. But everywhere we went, that's what happened. Every single time, that's what happened. Why did it happen like that? Because the desire is to manifest the necessity of deferring to the femininity of the feminine energy. Not deferred in that you put all the responsibility there, but the difference is in that you recognize the powerful importance of stopping the hemorrhaging, so that this life essence not be captured, but can do what it was designed to do, and that is to birth us from the womb of this earth consciousness. Comments? Questions? Okay. I'm done. People watching on the broadcast, I'm done. Telephone people, we say, Kwaheri, Nito Nanakesha. See you later. All right?